What's up, guys? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY in the overall market. I'm going to talk about some big news that's coming out involving Tesla, what's happening with the earnings that just came out, and what you should be watching for, as we're going to be looking for some volatility at 10 a.m. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so make sure you take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $2,000, you're guaranteed 30 in total. And the offer ends very soon at the end of March. Anyways, as far as Tesla's going, I mentioned to you all that on the medium term, we have this bearish wedge that has been developing, but for the short term, Tesla's been shuffling near 386. This is where our 200 EMA happens to be. We've been going back and forth between around 394 and about this support trend line around the 380 area for the last couple of days. We're looking a little bit heavy during this pre-market session, so there's going to be a risk of us dipping a little bit more for the markets, especially after what happened with Alphabet's earnings. Remember, both Alphabet and AMD ended up dumping after earnings came out. So that's a little bit negative so far. However, whether we continue to dump or if we get a bounce will depend on some data. So I'll talk about what that data is and I'll break down the charts. So as far as the news goes, I'm seeing a lot of negative news that's coming in about Tesla. We're seeing lots of talk about how their German sales are down about 60%, or at least their new vehicle registrations for the month of January. That's not necessarily the best of news. This is also coming out after we saw their UK sales down 8%. We saw other sales down in like Sweden and the Netherlands and Italy and many other countries like that. So across Europe, we're seeing a bit of a slowdown in the January sales. Doesn't guarantee anything, guys, because you have to remember that we're waiting for the Model Y refresh, and then simultaneously, it's very early into the year to make any claims. I can't say that 2025 will be a bad year or anything like that because, it's way too early, right? Tesla can make a very strong comeback. Typically, their sales do decline in January. This is just a little bit more extreme than usual, but it could be because of the Model Y that's coming out. So just want to make that very, very clear. Their sales are also down quite a bit in the state of California. That was making lots of headlines as well, but hopefully Tesla will offset this as time goes on. So that could be part of why Tesla's seeing a bit of a dip right now. We haven't lost our 200 EMA. We're still holding up, so keep that in mind. Now, today is Wednesday, February 5th. Just know that at 9:45 a.m., we have the S&P Global Composite PMI, so it might cause a little bit of volatility once this is out. And then at 10 o'clock a.m., we have the ISM Services PMI, business activity, employment, new orders, and prices all coming out. The ISM data is going to likely cause a lot more volatility, so get ready for that. And I want to make it very clear that the volatility that's going to come is going to lead to a lot of big moves. It's going to give us more insights about what's happening with the services sector, what's going on with U.S. businesses and factors just like that. So keep that in mind, guys, especially because we're starting to see not only a big shift in the narrative right now, but it's going to be affecting the way we're kind of viewing our economy during a lot of different things. So keep that in mind. Look for some big volatility at 10 a.m. The market could go either way. As of right now, the charts do look a little bit more bearish, but we'll see just to be safe. Now, in terms of earnings, I went over all the earnings yesterday about AMD and Alphabet. Both of their share prices ended up coming down after earnings came out. But this morning, we got Uber, Walt Disney, and Toyota. Disney actually saw the share price increase just a bit because their Q1 profit and revenue have topped expectations. I think the share price is still flat right now. They had a net income of about 2.55 billion or $1.40 per share. With the overall revenue at 24.69 billion, everything was above expectations. So good job by them. And then when it comes to what we're expecting, they are expecting a slight decrease in their Disney Plus memberships, at least for this coming quarter. So keep that in mind, guys. That's something that they're anticipating, but overall, their revenue still did relatively well. Uber beat on fourth quarter revenue expectations, but they offered soft guidance, which is why the share price is down. Just keep that in mind, guys. That's why we're seeing it kind of trading the way it is. And for Toyota, they actually had pretty decent earnings overall. If anything, we saw decent growth, but you have to keep in mind that we are not looking at the strongest of guidances, especially given what's going on so far. So keep that in mind. That's why we're seeing more nuances in the share price. But anyways, that's it for my analysis of that data. What do we see for Tesla? Well, Tesla has a very important level at 386. We got to hold this level. If we don't hold this, Tesla's at risk of retesting this trend line around 382, and then we'll have to see if we bounce off this. If Tesla breaks past 394, very close to our 20 EMA right here, then you're looking for an attempt to fill this gap. There's a gap over here that's unfilled up to about 402. So if we break 394, we're more bullish. If we lose 386, we could decline a little bit. But to be really bearish, we want to see it lose like 380. So I hope that's as clear as possible. Now, what do I see for the short term? Well, we have some data coming out. It does look like Tesla's going to dip just a little bit. Might come down here before it tries to rebound. But as of right now, this is all we're doing. We're trading sideways in this range. We're very tight right now, looking for a big increase in volatility very soon. So watch and see what the ISM services data causes. Does Tesla see a big bounce with the market and break past 394 to really start pushing? Or do we lose support at 386 and start dumping to 382? If that fails, we will be dipping even more. For now, it looks like there's going to be a small decline in Tesla in the markets, back down to 382 or so, and then we'll see if buyers defend there. So there might be a little decline in Tesla until we get our data, so just keep that in mind. SPY is also down just a bit. It's at 599 right now and may shuffle. We have resistance now at 600 and 600.18 and 600.84. If the data causes a rug pull, expect SPY to retest 598. If that doesn't hold us, we could be dipping to about 595. If the data causes a pump, if SPY breaks 602, we're looking for essentially 605. So keep those levels in mind. As of right now, we're kind of gapping down. It might be a little bit of a retest of like 598 or so before it tries to rebound. This pre-market, it basically gapped down and now it's trying to get bought back up a little bit. So I anticipate a lot of sideways price action between 600 and 598 for the first 30 minutes. And ISM will determine if we kind of like bounce or not. As of right now, SPY is looking like it's trying to bounce off its support, so it has some potential to try to bounce, but we will see just to be safe. On the QQQ, we gapped down after their earnings that came out. We're still technically holding 521. The reason we gapped down is because AMD and Google both declined. Google/Alphabet. So if we don't hold 520, we're looking for a dip towards like 518 and then 516. If we break past 521, we're looking for that gap fill back up to about 522. Could go either way depending on our data. I would anticipate it dips a little bit more towards like 518 if 520 doesn't hold us for the time being. Then we'd see if we get a bounce back up to 524, if we get a decline. Could go either way. We'd be watching this very, very closely. So just keep that in mind. For the Russell 2000, I want to make it very clear that we have 226 as a very, very key level as well. I'll be watching to see what this ends up doing. Watch the 226 zone to see if we hold this. If we lose 226 after the data comes out, we're looking for a decline to about 224. And if we hold above this, we're looking for an attempt to push back up to about 228. We're completely stuck in the middle, going back and forth. So this could be declining a bit to about 226. And we'll see if we get a bounce off of this, because overall it's still bullish. Unless we lose 226, this still looks bullish to me. So it's doing a good job. ES is holding up. We have like lower highs being made here. It's actually getting very tight. So we're expecting a very big move on ES as we're forming like a wedge like this. So I would say just wait and see what the reaction is. It's forming a nice wedge so far. So I think that we're just going to get really, really tight. And whether we break to the upside or the downside depends on the data. So be very patient with this one. It's very indecisive. So give it some time. Same thing with NQ. We're very tight right now. Although it is, technically we have a lower high here, it's actually forming a wedge as well. There's another wedge forming on NQ. It's completely indecisive, waiting for some data. Bitcoin looks like it might try to retest 99,000, but it's also very flat. I'm hoping it tries to push to about 101,000. There's potential if we do establish a higher low here. So we'll see about that. On Nvda, we have to see if we can try to break past 121. If we break that, we're looking for an attempt to pump even more all the way back up towards 125. If we lose 117, we're looking for a dip back down. So we'll just have to see how it goes and watch to see if we get a big pump right over here or not. On Tesla, we're very, very flat right now. If we end up losing 386, we could be dipping even lower right where this trend line happens to be. If we break past 393, we're looking for an attempt to fill this gap up here. Like I said before, we're very flat. Look for a small pullback here and then some consolidation, and then look for a big reaction once our data comes out. Aapl looks a little bit lackluster, especially after the earnings that came out and some news involving the Chinese tariffs. So it might decline back down to 225, and we'll have to see if we bounce off that. If it doesn't bounce off that, we could be dipping to like 222. So be careful, guys. We'll have to see what happens with these earnings and also these results. For coin, we're very much just stuck between 277 as support and 285 as resistance, going back and forth between these levels. On Amazon, we are going to retest 237. We'll see if we bounce off this or not. There's a slight decline because of Google's earnings, but we'll see what happens as time goes on because we're waiting to see what happens with their own earnings. Meta is going to be fighting for 700. If it doesn't hold, we could be retesting 691 before it tries to bounce. But overall, the trend is bullish. Microsoft could be retesting 408. If that doesn't hold, we're looking for 404 or so. Google got a big decline here, might be retesting 191, so just be careful, and that could slow things down. So as far as the market goes, expect a gap down, a lot of consolidation to start things off, and then get ready for a very, very big reaction. Tesla might see a small decline here, might decline a couple of points, but then as of right now, for the last couple of days, it's trading sideways. So wait for a big reaction at 10 a.m., and we'll see if this pumps the market or dumps it. Watch your levels just to be safe, but get ready for the ISM services data. This is actually going to be very important, so get ready, guys. Thank you for listening. Peace out.